Hello and welcome back to the Johnversations Podcast. As always, I am your host, John Connor, saying thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this week. This week's episode, I am super excited. Cannot wait for you guys to hear this interview. My guest embodies positivity in everything that they do, the work that they put out into the world. So again, really excited for you to check it out. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But before we do, if you are a new listener, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to check us out. Hope you like what you hear. Hope you come back. If you are one of our longtime listeners, part of the Johnversations family, again, thank you so much for coming back this week. I know, we kind of do the same type of intro every week where I let you know how appreciated you are here, but just want to make sure that we're really stressing that. If you check out the show every week, if you're somebody who listens to every episode, your love, your support, it means so much. Please make sure that you are telling your friends about us. Let them know they can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the places that you listen to the podcast. Last 2 weeks have been a little crazy. We had a sick kid, thought it might be COVID. It wasn't, which is good, but just kind of hectic. So getting to do this show, getting to hang out with you guys and hopefully putting something out there that you enjoy. And that you like listening to is really a treat for me. So again, if you're a new listener, thank you for being here. If you're an old listener, someone who's here every week, thank you for the support. Please, guys, make sure you are checking us out on the socials. You can find us on Instagram at Johnversations, Twitter at Johnversation, and Facebook at Johnversations as well. Also, if you have a moment, you can head over to the website, johnversationspodcast.com. Leave the show a review. You can review us on Apple Podcasts, or if you just want to leave a blanket review on the website, you can. The more people that leave reviews, give us a rating, the more people we get to be in front of and get to check out the show. So that is it with the plugs. Not going to talk about it anymore, but again, please follow us on the socials, leave us a review. Anything you can do to share the show really, really helps us out. So let's get into this week's episode. My guest today is an artist, an author, a teacher, again, just truly embodies all things positivity in the work that they do. And I think it really comes through in the conversation that we had. His book, I Can Draw, is available now. You can check out the show notes as to where to get the book. This week, I was fortunate enough to sit down with the truly talented, the truly wonderful Mr. Eric Nyamor. And again, can't be more excited for you guys to check out the conversation. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hope you guys are feeling well. Hope you're happy. Hope your families are good. Thank you for being here. Let's check it out. Eric, man, thank you so much for being here. It is so good to see you again. Super happy to have you. How before we kind of jump in and talk about some stuff, man, how are you doing? What have you been up to? It's just a pleasure to have you back, man. Thank you so much for doing it.
Man, I appreciate you having me, John. I mean, Happy New Year. I don't think we had opportunity to say that yet.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man. Hopefully 2022 looks a little bit better than the last one. So
yeah, the last couple of years have been wild being in quarantine, but it's just a good time just to evaluate and like reassess and adapt to the situation. But 2022 has been good so far. I'm still busy. Still have some projects coming in. I'm working on my own personal projects. Trying to catch up on some of these series that are coming out again. Everything's been good so far. I actually just got over COVID this last couple of weeks. So it's real, people.
Yeah. How, do you know where you got it from? Or is it still kind of just like speculation or?
So I did go to Hawaii last for New Year's Eve. And I was there, but I was super careful. I made sure to have a mask everywhere I went, washed and sanitized my hands. So I was good the whole trip there. It's when I came back, it snowed here in Nashville and I had turned my heat down. And so I come in my house, it's like 30 degrees or whatnot. And I turned the heat back up and I had to go to sleep with my clothes. I wake up, got this tickle in my throat, feeling super weak. And I try to call in. I'm like, I'm not going to make it. My manager is like, maybe you should take a COVID test. I'm like, that's the last thing that came in my mind. So, oh yeah, we're still in COVID times. So I get my test done and it was negative. So I'm like, I'm good. Maybe I just have a cold or bronchitis, something. I didn't think it was COVID. So our center had got shut down for a week. because like several teachers had COVID. And then I'm like, am I still going to have a test since I recently got one? And then she said, go ahead, get one just in case. So I get one over there on Charlotte, and it comes back. I check the results, and then I see this little red box. I had several COVID tests and always been negative. And I see this red box. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I refresh the page, and it says detected. I'm like, detected? What does that mean?
Right.
But yeah, I ended up having it. So I wonder if the first test I had was not a good one, or if I got it. I don't know. It's weird. But all I had was like a cough. I was little shivers, but none of that main stuff. It was probably just Amari Khan.
I call it Optimus Prime because I can't say it right. It's like Omnicron,
yeah.
Whatever, however you say it. Yeah, got that Optimus Prime. Well,
did you receive it at all?
So I have not got it yet, and I don't. And I will say, if you did get it in Hawaii, there's no better place, I guess, to get it than being in Hawaii. But
right.
yeah, like we take, like, I've got at-home tests whenever I can find some. CVS sells them, and they're usually like limit 6 per customer. So if I find them, I just stock up, and then I signed up to get some sent out because the government's sending them out now. You can get the test through the covidtest.gov or something like that, and they send you 4 for free, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we've been testing, man, and still coming back negative. That I was telling you before, but the kiddo got sick and she was running a fever, like throwing up. We took her to the doctor, and the doctor was like, yeah, she's probably got COVID. And so they did the test, and we brought her home being like, oh, fine. Like, I guess it happened. Like, we've got it now. And then 2 days later, they were like, nope, it's negative. So it's almost like you forget that there's like still other shit out there. You know what I mean? Like the flu and cold and all that. But like anytime I'm not feeling good, the first thing I do is like, let me shove this thing up my nose and see how it comes back. So, do you think like you just didn't, because I know part of it is like people take tests like too early, so like you don't have the viral load, it doesn't read on the test strip. Like, do you think you just like took that first one a little bit too early, or you think it was maybe like a bad one or something, or just?
I think it might have been a bad one. The place that I went was kind of janky, and I only went there because it was like you received the results the day of, like because I was the worst of my sickness the day that I took it. And then like several days after, when I took it again, I was feeling a lot better. I had a cough. I was a little weak, but I felt much better than I did when I first took it. So it wouldn't make no sense if I don't know. I'm not a doctor or scientist, so I'm not sure how it worked, but I'm pretty sure if I had it, probably would have detected at that time.
It was like COVID testing used tires, just like,
it's super janky.
Man, I went to CVS and bought one. I came home, I got one for me and my wife, and I came home and opened it up, and there was no test strips in it. It had like the liquid, it had the swabs, but it didn't have any test strips. So I called them. I was like, yo, these things are like $24. And they're like, just bring it up. We'll swap it out for another one. But I was like, well, I'm glad I called. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's weird, man. Like, I got a niece and a nephew, and then one of my siblings has it right now. So like the whole house is just, and my niece is less than a year old. So it's, luckily the kids have been doing okay with it. Like I know that you teach, like, have you been seeing a lot in schools and stuff like that? And
it's been crazy. Like, so my program, Metro Action Center, there's over like 300 plus workers. And out of those 300 plus workers, like 150 had COVID. There was 150, like almost half of the people had it. And then that's why we had to close like all our sites, like all our schools down for about 2 weeks. And even now they're still kind of hesitant. Like, we're bringing the kids back next week, but we're still kind of hesitant with doing it. Because when you're messing with kids, it's a bit harder. Like, we could always have the mask and do the right procedures or whatnot, but children, they get sick easy anyways. And we're like right next to the kids, hugging them. We have to zip up their clothes, tie their shoes, blow their nose. So we're like always having contact. It's difficult to do the job without touching the children. So yeah, I could see like a lot of the, teachers getting sick or whatnot. just a lot of people on top of each other. And you get sick anyways in the teaching position. Like even prior to COVID, there's always like a time where like 3 teachers are out with the flu or being sick or something. Like I have not been sick at all since COVID though. It was like weird. Like I've been good, not even a sniffle. And then like literally when I came back from Hawaii, like I got sick again. I forgot this feeling. I'm like, it was like this lady on a plane that was coughing like behind me. I was like what's going on? Like
you want to turn around
the whole flight.
Stop it.
Right. Like, but yeah, I was extra careful, I stayed in a hostel and stuff. So, maybe I wasn't too careful, but I'm glad I wasn't sick out there.
Yeah.
Prior to going out there.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing too, is like, luckily with this like new strain, it's more mild. It doesn't seem to be getting people as bad, especially if you're vaccinated. All the people I know who have got this new strain who are vaccinated, they, feel rough for a day or two, but then other than that, it's, they do okay with it, but it's,
right.
It's just, it's real strange because you still have to live your life to some extent. I had my friend Olivia on last week, and that's what we were talking about is, she works in a hospital, but she's like, at some point, where you're not going to see your family, what are you're just going to like shut in. So you're trying to find that balance of like, I'm being safe, but I'm also not like shutting down my entire life and missing opportunities and things like that. So it's just a weird time. And it's also crazy to me that if you did get it in Hawaii, you're a teacher. And then when, you do the Nashville farmers market, selling your pieces and stuff like that. So you're around all like sick kids all the time. You're around this like huge portion of the general public. And then you're like, I'm going on vacation. You know what I mean? It was that one lady just coughing behind you, ruined everything.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
And then, some people aren't as like careful as others. Like they don't care about boundaries. Like you're in line and they're going to be like right behind you. Like, bro, like give me some space, man. Or there's a lot of people who weren't wearing masks, like in the stores that we went to. People aren't as careful as washing hands or whatnot. So, there's a lot of factors that goes into it. But, it happens. Like I'm vaccinated. I feel good now. Came back negative. So ready to, go back at it.
Yeah. Now you got them like thick boy antibodies too. Like you got like more protection than, you could possibly have because you got the antibodies from being sick and then from the vaccine. So, I mean, you're at least for right now, you're like untouchable. I'd be high-fiving everybody.
Right. What up? I'm Iron Man out here, man. I got my suit and I'm good. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you this because, I just mentioned, you do the Nashville farmers market.
Sure.
It's not all year round, right? Do they only do it like during so like how long have you been off and doing that and when do you go back?
So I've been doing it for like 5 years and it is year round. With me, I do it during the peak season. The peak season is spring through fall. So basically it's April all the way to the end of November. And that's the way I do it. I do it at the end of April just so I could like use this time to like make more illustrations, have more content, try to evaluate how to make my booth much better. But there's still artists and other vendors out there selling their products. A lot of produce vendors go year round or whatnot. But yeah, it's too cold out there for me. So I can't do it year round. Despite being from Michigan, I do not handle the cold weather well. So I like to stay at my spot. I got my heat on 77 and then just relax and draw until like the weather drops down a little bit and then I'll be back at it.
Yeah, I try to put it on 72 and it always gets bumped down. It's like, no,
yeah, I don't see how you guys do it. Like I went to this conference, this workshop yesterday, and it was at 69. Everybody has like short sleeve shirts on and just relax. I'm like, man, I had to put my whole trench coat on and hat. Like I'm so uncomfortable if it's like under 70. Like, yeah.
Now let me ask you this: you grew up. We both grew up in Michigan. When I lived in Michigan, because I lived in Michigan into my 20s. So when I was living at home, I could handle the cold. Like, I didn't prefer it, but it didn't. I've been down here now for about 8 years. And it dropped
Same.
down to it dropped down to like 20, and I was like, this sucks. I hate this. As I feel like that northern tolerance is kind of wearing off. And I keep telling Kara, my wife, I'm like, I'd like to take the kid, back to Michigan for like a good winter, like let her see like a couple feet of snow, and you know what I mean? And then it hits like 25 out. I'm like, I'm never going back there in the winter ever again. It's too cold. So I didn't know if you were the same way, where like you just lost that, like you grow up with that tolerance, and then you just, it's like somebody moving to Florida. You're like, fuck that. I don't want to be cold again. So
yeah, I definitely lost my tolerance, man. I do remember being uncomfortable in Michigan because we did have those days where like your snot will freeze up, your toes are totally cold. You're knocking the snow off of your car. You feel it all in your hands. So I vividly could remember those days. But like, like this is nothing compared to Michigan. But I still like feel extra uncomfortable. Like I was always a person that had the heater on, even like in the summer, and I have my feet like right by it. So I always been a person that like warmer weather, but definitely being out here spoiled us, because like when I go up there, I think I went there in February once, and it snowed real bad. I was like miserable. People were like thinking I was being all dramatic, like, nah, bro, this ain't it. Like, but yeah, we're definitely spoiled here. Like people complain about like the humidity, which could be a little annoying, but I could personally, I like that a little more than like the coldness. Like I could just strip or whatnot. But when it's cold, you got to put a whole bunch of clothes on and whatnot. Got to double up on the covers, and to each your own. But I do like Nashville. You do get the different seasons for like a good amount of time. So we're gonna experience this cold weather, but it's gonna stop around like March, and then we'll start getting warmer weather, and we'll get like cooler weather, and we'll get cold weather. We like get the good transitions. But sometimes if you live like in Florida, like my cousin lives in Florida, he complains that it's always warm, and he was excited coming up here, being able to wear some of his jackets and warm clothes. It's like, yeah, like I got all these dope clothes I want to wear, but I don't have the opportunity out in Florida to be able to wear it. Sometimes in California too, a lot of California people appreciate like our falls and our winters. I will say one thing about Michigan, like our falls are probably like one of the best falls. Like, and even like, and even our summers are pretty cool, because once it's 5 o'clock, cools down. The day is perfect, California type of weather. Here it stays humid throughout the whole day, even at night.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like I don't think, and I also wonder, kind of talking about tolerance. Like when I talk to a lot of people about back home, I don't think they realize during the summer, like Michigan summers get pretty humid because we're surrounded by the Great Lakes. So like you're used to like hot and sticky in the summer. So you come down here, and even when it's a little humid, like it's not as bad, as Michigan would get, 90-degree days with 70% humidity. You just be like, what? Oh my God, I'm sweating. I've always been a fat kid, man. So humidity is not my friend. I'm just like sweaty and sticky. It just doesn't work for me. But yeah, it's I remember one time it was, oh man, it had to be the end of March going into April, and I was dating this girl, and we went to Florida, and we went down there. She was staying with her family longer, so I flew home by myself. And when I left, the weather was supposed to be nice. When we got back, some like freak snowstorm blew in. So I flew down to Florida, and I only had shorts, flip-flops, and I landed back in Detroit, and there was like 3 feet of snow on the ground, and I had like no jeans, nothing. And so I had somebody pick me up to take me to where my car was, and my car was buried because a plow would come through and bury the car. So I'm out there, it's like -10, just trying to shovel my car out in flip-flops and shorts, man. It was like, oh my God, I'll never forget it. It's like, got like a little bit of like winter PTSD from that. But I took Kara one time in February, the first winter she had been out there, and we landed at the airport. We're walking around, everything's cool. As soon as we walked out the door and she took a breath, she just started choking because the air was so cold. She wasn't used to it. She's like, where the hell did you bring me? This is so cold.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, man. Well, I wanted to ask you, because I know you said, during this time you're not really doing the farmer's market. You're working on other projects and illustrations and stuff. Like, what have you been up to artistically and creatively? Like, because that was when we met, that was my favorite thing about your whole setup was like, you had your pieces there, you were selling your work. You had the book that I Can Draw. Go get it. We'll link it up in the show notes. We got the book, but I think for me, the coolest part was like getting to see you because you're sitting there and you're actually sketching, doing pieces, like showing your work, kind of walking through the process. So, what have you been up to in this kind of transitional period in between where you're focusing on the work?
So I've been working on several projects. I don't know if we talked about my comic strips.
Yeah,
I'm still like putting. Yeah. So I'm still putting out some more of those. I haven't put any out in the last couple of weeks, but like I'm gonna start putting out more weekly. Just my gallivants as a teacher, my life, different adventures I'm going on. I'm working on my second book, which is going to be really cool. Just working on putting together. It's going to be kind of like a guide, a Nashville guide. I'll be able to say more once I have like more sketches and stuff done with that. And I'm looking to have that complete by the end of the summer. And I'm working on some mashups as well. I'm working on a nice Disney one that you'll be able to appreciate. I'm gonna DM it to you, like the sketch. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm working on another house party mashup that's really, really cool. And you'll definitely appreciate this one. And I'm doing like one with Detroit's Finest.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm having like characters from Detroit, like Martin Payne, Big Meech, like Bill Lambier, RoboCop, Axel from Beverly Hills Cops, like all like in Detroit. We got that fist or whatnot. So it's going to be a pretty cool piece. I did one called Brooklyn's Finest. So this one is going to be like Detroit Finest. I want to kind of do like different finances of different cities and whatnot. So that's going to be my next installment.
That's sweet.
And that, yeah. So, I'm trying to keep busy. Of course, I'm working on some commissions. A lot of families coming to me around this time, making them look like superheroes and Avengers. Working on some fun logos and just doing what I usually been doing, just much more as like I meet more and more people at the farmers market, or they come to my site. I'm able to attain more commission projects. So, I've been busy and it's been fun. I love it because I'm soon trying to make that transition to just doing illustrations. As much as I love teaching, like illustration is the goal.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And I definitely want to see that Detroit's Finest. I have the Brooklyn's Finest is still up on my shelf. I've started, this is kind of like the new setup, but eventually I want to get some shelves back here where I can kind of put stuff up. So I'm just figuring out how I want to work it, but I've got it there. It's with me every day. I also do like my day job in here too. So that's one of those things like I've noticed when, if I have a tough situation at work, I find myself looking at it and picking out new details and stuff like, because, for me, a lot of the time, especially when somebody does create something by hand, like you look at it at first glance, but then the more that you inspect it, like you find new details or, things that you may have missed, like, just looking at it a couple times. So it's really cool. It's one of my favorite things that I own. So that's awesome.
Appreciate that.
Oh, no worries, man. I did want to ask, because the last time we had kind of talked about, how you found your way, you've been doing illustrations since you were a kid. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was, when you talked about like, this is what I love to do. So like, this is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what's that thing? Like, just because you're grown up doesn't mean you can't keep doing it. You know what I mean?
The purpose.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, like, first of all, like, do you find that same passion? So when somebody comes to you with a commission and is like, I want you to make like My Family, the Avengers, like, do you have that same passion around those commissions as you do like your own work? And then the other thing I was wondering was, let's say you get commissioned for a piece like that, like with your process, how long does it take you to do like a commission piece like that?
All right. So whether somebody wants me to do like something with the Avengers that I totally love, or maybe they want me to do something of Star Trek, which I know nothing of, I always try to give people like the best of my abilities. It's like if you're like a motivational speaker and you only have like 2 people in a room, you still want to make it like you have 2 million people in a room. So you always want to give your best. So I try my hardest, like make sure I give every project my gusto. So if somebody gives me a piece, and even if I'm overwhelmed or whatnot, I try to stay positive or whatnot, and do it like it's my own project. My process, it varies. It depends, like the amount of characters and details in each illustration. But it starts out with a hand sketch, kind of like when you saw me at the farmer's market. I'm gonna draw a sketch, and then I'm gonna text them the rough sketch of what the illustration looks like, and they're like, okay, I like that, but can you make his head smaller? Can you add a detail here? Oh no, I'll get rid of the dog and put a cat. So we're just going back and forth with the sketch, and then once they like that sketch, then I go ahead to the color process. I work on Clip Studio and Photoshop, so I sketch what I already drew. I ink my sketches, add like the ink part, and then I add color and contrast after I do all that. So 2-3 weeks, and I show them the finished product. They like it, and I print it off to them. I give them a print and send them a digital copy or whatnot.
Now, like, do you do like kind of multiple commissions at once, or like if you get one that comes in, or you just like, all right, this is the one that I'm working on, and then because I imagine being as creatively minded as you are, like if you do more than one at a time, does it get hard to juggle having to kind of pour that much creativity into multiple projects?
That's a great question. I do multiple at once, and then sometimes it'll be totally different. So I definitely have to put them in different folders in my notes to make sure like I don't get the customers mixed up, and I don't get the project mixed up as well.
Send them the wrong family.
Send them the wrong family. Because sometimes people want like Batman and Spider-Man together, Marvel and DC. Sometimes people want like a Marvel family. Some people want a DC family. Some people like want a mixture of all genres. So I just got to make sure I'm aware of that. And that kind of goes into the style and the little Easter eggs that I put in each illustration. And that's something that I do too. So tell me as much as you can about your family, like little subtle hints about your family that I could implement in this picture. So I had this project that this lady wanted me to do for her boyfriend, who was real into Cowboy Bebop. He loved Batman. His kids liked, I forgot his football team, I think Alabama. So she was just telling me little stuff about him, and I implemented that within the illustration. So I made him Batman. I made the kids look like Batgirl and Robin. I put some Cowboy Bebop Easter eggs in it. I put I think he was from New York, so I kind of had a map of New York in it. So a lot of customers, if you're coming to me, I do mashups, and I love the Easter eggs. So you're always going to want me to implement that in your personal project or whatnot. So when people come up to me, that's something that they definitely want, like little subtle things that they could pick out. And then when they show it to their significant other, that's where the joy comes. Yeah.
No, that's awesome too. And I don't know, man, especially if you're getting it as a gift, that seems like it would be appreciated on a whole different level, because it is so personal. It's you can get a Traeger grill, or you can get something that's completely custom to you, out of the two. It feels like, a piece of your work that is about that person would hold so much more value because it's tied into the things that are important to them. And that's awesome too, man. Cause it's it's gotta be a nice feeling for someone who commissions to want to have that interaction where you're like, okay, so tell me about you. You know what I mean? Not just cause I think there's probably a million people that can be here you are as Batman, you know what I mean? They work, as character artists or whatever, but to have something where it's no, I want to know about you. I want to know what's important to you. What do you like? And then be able to translate that so well, I think is really, really cool. I did want to ask you, because, you said you really focus a lot on the mashups, and one of my favorite pieces, the next piece I'm going to get from you, is all the cartoon characters in the AA meeting. Because that one, that one is it's super funny, and it's super smart. Just the combination of characters that you have. But I wanted to ask you, number one, what is it that draws you to doing these mashups? And then is it a challenge for you? Because I think, with like superheroes, like you said, if it's DC or Marvel, there's that common thread, but you're pulling, characters from different genres. You're pulling, it's not just like, oh, here's a superhero and here's a superhero, but like this Brooklyn's Finest piece, you've got Terry Crews in it, Miles Morales, you got Captain America, like it's all across the board. So I guess what is it that draws you to that? And then, what's your process as far as like, this is how I'm going to make these connect?
Another great question, John.
I try. Thank you, sir.
So, nostalgia. Last time we talked, I was talking about your purpose and how you find out your purpose. And my purpose, I believe, is art and illustration. So you go back to when you're a child, and not only what did you do as a child, what did you like as a child? What was your process as a child? And as a child, I love comics. I loved all these characters, the Cookie Monsters, the Popeyes, the Ninja Turtles. I loved all those. So like in the beginning, I redrew those in my own style because that's what I drew a lot as a child. And as an adult, I like mashup art and crossover art. So I think of, if I was a customer, what kind of art would I purchase? What would draw me towards this specific artist? And it was always like the mashup. So like, why can't I be that? And when you first start doing this Comic Con hustle, there's a lot of dope artists that do Comic Cons, like artists that work for Marvel for years, artists that work for DC in years that have like the clout and credibility. And then it's just you just out there. And I knew like skill wise, I wasn't the best, but I knew I was super creative and I figured out my niche. I had that abundance mindset. Somebody will like the product that I'm making, which was these mashups. So that was my niche. And that was like my go-to, was creating these mashups. And like they come in different ways. Like when I'm at the farmer's market, I could people watch. And if I see something, I'm like, why don't I do like a picture of somebody walking some dragons and maybe make the dragons some of the like Disney dragons or something, because you see people walking the dog. So how about we have some characters walking the dragon? That's one I'm thinking of randomly. Or if I'm just scrolling through the internet, I see dogs playing poker. Why don't I have like Disney characters playing poker or whatnot? And then that Snackaholics, that came up with me watching Family Guy. They had Cookie Monster like in a bathroom. You remember that episode? Shooting up some cookie dough. And I'm like, man, Cookie Monster is like really an addict, huh? There's other characters that kind of like food. And then I'm thinking of all the different characters that like food. And that was one of the pieces I told you that like I did not like when it first was complete, but then I put it out there and it was well received to a point like, yeah, I can't pull it out. Like I'm making money off of it. But one thing I will say is I do want to make a part 2 with the same characters, but kind of better. Since I evolved as an artist, I want to kind of evolve that picture and maybe add some characters that I didn't have before. Like I could add like Garfield into it. I could add like Sonic. I know Sonic is into like hot dogs or whatnot. So yeah, there's this abundance of ideas that I haven't even touched yet. And it just sometimes just takes meditating and just silence and kind of drawing back from your youth and bringing your youth to the present. And there's still things that could influence and inspire you in the present that you could bring to the past. Like they have Rick and Morty. That's a very relevant cartoon now, with that classic Back to the Future scene with him coming out of his vehicle and Morty behind him. So it's cool because a lot of people that are running this earth are our age. And some of the people, the younger kids, they still trying to bite off like our style. So we're blessed to be in a time where like we've seen all these transitions. We weren't texting when we were little kids. We didn't know anything about streaming devices. Like we had to be lucky if we caught an episode of DuckTales. Right. Now people could save it and watch it anytime they want. But if we miss that episode of DuckTales, it might be months till we see it again. So that being said, it's just, we're blessed to be in the time we are now, and we're blessed with the childhood that we have that we're able to implement now, and it influences like our passion.
Yeah, man, it's so funny that you say that because like I think we talked about this before, but like, that feeling of like getting up on Saturday morning and being like, I gotta sit down. Like I know what cartoons are coming. Like Tales from the Crypt Keeper is gonna be on. That was my jam. I love that one. But and now it's, the other day I was like, Darkwing Duck popped in my head, and I was like, is it as good as I remember it being? So like you can go on YouTube and it's like every episode of Darkwing, you know what I mean? Or like my daughter, right now she's really into the Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi one, with Doc Ock. So we were watching that, and I forgot about that scene. You know that scene where he's on the bed and they're in the hospital and they're going to cut the arms off, and then all the arms come alive, and he like kills like 12 doctors. And I'm watching her, and her face is just like, I'm thinking that she's like, it's freaking her out. And it was over, and she looked at me, she goes, that was awesome. So it's just like, just kind of being like, because oh man, that came out like 2002. I think I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school, but just kind of getting to share that with her. Like we just watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. I didn't want to show her the first one because I was like, the first one is still like a pretty dark film, you know what I mean? But the second one's a lot Vanilla Ice dancing and stuff. But it's like, what do you think it is about? Because I think like with the Saturday morning cartoons that we grew up with, and it seemed like we're in that age where cartoons stopped necessarily being for kids and kind of moved to a more mature audience. Do you think that has something to do like with our like age group specifically? Because I can't think of I don't know how many like 30-year-old people were watching Howdy Doody back in the 50s, you know what I mean? But like people, there's people 30, 40 that are still like, yeah, man, Dragon Ball Z, or like, like what is there something specific about our generation that you think helps it be so nostalgic? It's a long way to get to that question, I guess. So
no, it's cool. I think it's like trends, and it's going with just not just with geeks, but it's a trend altogether just to like comics and animes and a lot of this nostalgia things. It's like what's hot, like, bro, you didn't see the last Marvel movie, or you didn't see Ninja Turtles, you didn't see Transformers. So that's what's hot. Like now, back when we were kids, I don't think like Jetsons, Jetsons is from the 70s, right? And if you watch like Jetsons in the 80s and 90s, like it wasn't as popular. Like that wasn't what's on. Like only a selective group of people really watched it. But now, like everybody knows about anime, even if they're not into it, they heard of it. They're gonna go to the movies to watch it because that's what's trendy. Like for a long time it was zombies. Before that it was like vampires. Whatever's trendy is like what people are gonna gear towards. And I just think like the superhero phenomenon is what's hot right now. Comic books is what's hot right now. So people are gonna gravitate towards these comic book movies, and it just so happens that we've always been into that, even as children. So we're just hot right now. It might change 20 years from now, but like right now, I just think a lot of nostalgia is what's hot.
Yeah, well, and I wanted just to kind of piggyback off that. I mean, do you think, because like everybody credits like those first three, the third one was terrible, but those first three Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire is kind of bringing those like the superhero Marvel universe, whatever. People definitely don't give Blade the credit that it deserved, because that movie is 100 times better than any of those Spider-Man movies. It's so good. But like as we see it now with like the MCU and this whole big extended universe and stuff, do you think any of that has to do with like cultural climate? Because if you go see Endgame or something like that, like it's a wild ride, it's super fantastical, it's like fun to watch, and it kind of takes you out of the world that you're in. So especially over these like last couple of years, you know what I mean? Like, with COVID and George Floyd and just the climate that we're in. So do you think that any of it has to do with almost like some level of escapism, where it's like, I can just kind of throw myself into this crazy world where there are heroes and there are villains, and it's not So like gray area.
Yeah. You know what? I do. And then we could like, dissect that a little more. But like you said, I think it could be a distraction from the real world. And these movies is just a form of it, just like social media is as well. The YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that's people like escaping their like own world and just diving into to something else. And there's somebody different. And maybe that's what these movies are. Like it's a distraction of what's really going on in life. And they're watching these movies and then they're Spider-Man, they're Black Panther, they're Thor or whatnot. So I just think not only the movies are doing that, but just everything in general is just to distract you from real life situations. And we just live in a digital era. And these movies just so happen to be like another element of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because I think there is that like escapism level. But then the other thing that I've really been liking too is like, it seems like in comic books and in movies, like they just came out, I think, was it like Superman's son is bisexual. Like there's, you've got heroes on the big screen now, like Captain Marvel, like a Wonder Woman and these big, mega studio releases. Black Panther obviously was a huge thing. And it's kind of cool to think about like as the culture advance, because that's the one thing about like comics and that art form in general is like, there was episodes about what was it, Green Arrow's son doing heroin in the 60s when like you know what I mean? Like they've always kind of reflected what's going on in the culture. So I think it's kind of cool that like now more than ever, there are people that can pick up a comic book or go to these movies and see somebody that is like, oh, that's a representation of me. You know what I mean? Because for so long it was like superheroes looked a certain way. And now it's, how many kids went and saw Black Panther and was like, that dude looks like me. He's a superhero. Like, this is awesome. So like, is that something as an artist and as somebody who does these mashups and puts these characters together that, wouldn't traditionally go together? Is that something that is something that like excites you is kind of seeing the way that it continues to grow and like reflect different aspects of culture?
Yeah, definitely. Representation definitely matters. Whether it's art, music, or whatnot, you want to see somebody that looks, sounds, and has like some of the same beliefs you have, right? So having movie characters, comic characters that look like you is dope. Like seeing women superhero, and not just to have a woman just be someone sexy, but she's like a badass and she's doing something and she has agency. Like that's super dope. Having a black character that's not in the background that dies right away, just be the forefront of the movie. That's cool. We're having a lot of gay, lesbian, trans characters that are cool. And I like that that's not the storyline. It's like that's part of who they are, but they're not focused like, oh, I'm gay, or I'm trans. Right. They just so happen to be a badass that's gay or trans. And I feel that's like was written real well. So like I'm all for it. Representation is needed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too, where it's like you said, and I feel like specifically in comic books, like they do a really good job of being this is a part of the character, but this is not the character's identity. You know what I mean? Like like he's Superman, saves the world, and then this is just a part of who he is, and kind of showing that people are multifaceted. You know what I mean? Not one thing makes up your entire identity, which I think is pretty cool. I did want to ask you this because you mentioned doing like the Comic-Con thing and stuff like that. Like, have you noticed because we talked about this a little bit with the as far as like the farmers market and stuff like that, and that community being really like uplifting to each other and wanting people to succeed. When you're in this world of other artists and you're kind of setting your path, doing your own thing, is it still that kind of like uplifting community, or does there tend to be more like competition? Like what's that like interacting with other people who are trying to kind of carve out a niche in what they do the same way that you do?
So Comic Cons, man, I did one last year. We'll talk about that in a bit. But Comic Cons are crazy competitive and whatnot. And the authors or illustrators or writers, they're not as friendly as the people at the farmers market. So when me being at the farmers market, we all had different products and we all had different customers. So we're not gonna ever step on each other's toes. But at Comic Cons, like there's a whole alley and there's all artists. And then some of them will be doing exactly what you do, be a mashup artist, be a nostalgic artist, be an artist that just does woman stuff, be an artist that just does Black characters. So there's an artist for everything. So it could be a little difficult, especially in the beginning, because you want to find your lane. That's what I'll tell any illustrator starting. Don't be intimidated by the person that's been doing it longer than you. Just figure out where you fit in, because there's a ton of people and somebody's going to like you. You have to have that abundance mindset. So it is competitive. And when I started, like a lot of artists didn't really say anything to me, but I did find a couple that did give me pointers and whatnot. So you'll find some people that are cool, like, hey, you should do this in your setup. I think you need a banner. Maybe you should do 11 by 17 versus 11 by 14. Have a portfolio for your vertical prints. Have a portfolio for the horizontal prints. So you do meet people there. And the cool thing about that, you'll see them in Atlanta, but then you can meet them again in Indianapolis or when they come to Nashville. So there's a few artists that I met at Comic Cons that I'll see at another Comic Con, and we communicate all the time and have ideas with each other, like, and kind of give each other strategies. So that's what's cool. Once you become somebody cool with somebody, you're friends forever. But it is like crazy competitive, and some artists won't like say anything to you. You're like, oh, it's him. Some will. So all I'll say is, like, if you're gonna get into this world, you do gotta learn salesmanship. Like, a lot of us are awkward artists, but the thing is, a lot of the customers are awkward too. So if you're just standing there drawing your picture, the customer is not gonna come up to you because they're socially awkward too. So you got to kind of learn how to sell and be more extroverted. Like, hey, how you doing? I like that Spider-Man cosplay that you have. Hey, how you doing? Oh, that's a cool Harry Potter shirt. You got to learn how to do that if you're going to be able to be successful in this. Whether it's farmer's market, you could just kick back, sketch. And if people enjoy your backdrop, they're going to come to you. Or there's not a lot of people doing what I do. So I have a lot of customers coming to me. I still talk like everyone down there. Hey, good morning. How you doing? Hey, I like your dog is cute. What kind of dog it is? So yeah. I still do that at the farmer's market, but I do it a lot less. Whereas when I'm at a Comic Con, I'm not sketching at all. I'm standing up, saying hi to every single person that comes to my booth, commenting on their cosplay. Because sometimes that can initiate a sale just by simply saying hi. Because people are awkward, especially in the comic field. So they being acknowledged is something that they like, because they're probably not going to initiate all that. But if you're able to say hi, you're going to have a conversation. And we all have fandoms. Somebody there has the same fandom as you. Like, most people like Marvel. So you could talk to them about Marvel, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach. There's somebody who likes what you like. And then that could like lead into a conversation. Oh, man, I like you, man. I want to support you. Let me buy that. And that's like why I like Comic Cons a lot. Like, whatever your fandom is, you're going to find somebody who loves it as much as you.
Yeah. And I imagine that is, if there was I'm the same way as you are. I'd tell my wife, if I didn't have to leave my house for weeks at a time, if nobody made me leave, I'd be fine. I'm just cool, like sitting, hanging out. I've got a certain group of people that I like spending time with, but like, I'm not Mr. like extrovert. I'm more introverted. Sure. And, I grew up playing music. So we'd be playing in these venues that were packed, and I'm sitting in the back drinking coffee by myself, because it's scary to me to go out and like talk to all these people who came to like see the band play. You know what I mean? So right. I imagine it being someplace like Comic-Con, these Comic-Cons, like, does that help? Because there is, everybody who goes to Comic-Con, like, you're there, because you like that world. And then, is it easier to start a conversation when you can say, like, hey, that Spider-Man outfit is super awesome. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people that are just kind of throwing themselves into it, or do you still find it like just as challenging if you're in any other large group of people?
It's so much better. Like, this is like your world. If you're like, I think I'm naturally into comic books. I naturally have like a lot of fandom that I'm into, and that's what makes Comic-Con so great, because people literally like feel your product. They see where your mind is, and they'll pick up Easter eggs that like you probably don't even know that you're making or whatnot. So it is a lot easier because you're gonna find more other people who are into your product. It's hard at first, like being successful in it, because you do got to find a niche. Unless you're just that great, talented artist that just has a good product or whatnot, and you stand out. There's people like that, but for me, that kind of had to like hone in on my skills and progress, and I'm still progressing. I had to definitely find a niche, but it's so much easier. And a lot of times, this is people's getaway. This is their opportunity, like to mingle with people. Some people like to go to the club. That's their thing. Some people like to go skating. There's people, some people go to skate park. Some people go to the gym and play basketball, baseball field, whatever it is. This is like, geeks, nerds. This is their paradise. This is their opportunity to just be loose and just talk about whatever they want. Like, you can see people talk about Star Trek for days. They'll talk about their theories. They'll talk about previous episodes. They'll talk about what's their favorite season, who's coming next, Star Wars or whatnot. Whatever, like, you'll find somebody that likes what you like. And most people, are into like the Marvel. So you'll see somebody wearing the same cosplay as you. And like, if you ask somebody to take a picture, they love it. That's why people are wearing the cosplay. So somebody would take a picture of them. And there's just so many opportunities to meet people and just get out of your shell. And I think that's what helped me kind of get out of my shell, was continuing to do these Comic-Cons and learning how to properly talk to people and, get out of my shell in essence. So it's escape. Like, I love farmers market because you meet different people all the time. Comic-Cons, you're going to meet the same type of people. You're going to meet different people because you're in different cities, but they're all like comic book nerds and they're about that life. Whereas like farmers market, I meet someone from LA that's just here who might be into rock and roll, doesn't know anything about comic books, but we still vibing. And I think that's probably why I have a diverse group of friends and followers, because I do different venues and meet people from all over. And I like that. I take pride in that, just being able to be a chameleon in all these different areas. But Comic-Con is definitely like a different vibe than the farmers market. And if you've never been, like, go. Like, my friend Adam, he been to Comic-Con last year. We went to Indianapolis Con, and this dude had a ball. He went there with his wife and his daughter. He was just like, oh man, look at that Goku cosplay. Oh, look at Spider-Man. Bro, I did not. This is just like the comic, like just like the how they show on TV, like the Comic-Con. I'm like, yeah, this is it. And this was like a smaller one, and it wasn't even as big due to COVID. So I was like, imagine if like things were normal. He would have been overstimulated, but it's definitely what it's supposed to. Like, and there's tons around here. We got some in Atlanta, Indianapolis, Memphis. So hopefully things open up this summer, and I definitely like go bring the daughter and make sure she dresses up.
Oh yeah, man. She is super into superheroes. She loves, she loves anything that she's Spider-Man, Batman, just, we haven't gotten into like the niche or like the darker ones yet, because she's still real little, but
Batman metal.
Yeah. But like that in The Office, she's just like, and then she really likes have you seen that Encanto movie that just came out yet on Disney Plus?
I haven't.
Oh, dude, so good. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy who did Hamilton, he did all the music for it. And
oh wow,
dude, it's so catchy. I'm a 36-year-old man walking around the house singing Disney songs because we got them on the Spotify playlist and everything. Yeah, but it's cool, like what you were talking about though, because like, like, I know you said like, this is where like the geeks and the nerds go, but like you go to these places and there are people from all different walks of life that like are so invested in it. And it's like, there's somebody who's like an accountant during the day, or, like just like all these people from all different areas of life. I've had Annie Cruz on the show before. you know, she does a lot of Twitch gaming and stuff like that, but she's like super hard in the cosplay. She did an Ash from Evil Dead, and like she handmade the chainsaw, and
so
like, you know what I mean? Just so like, it's got to be a really cool experience to go and just see people put so much, kind of like what you do. You're just putting so much love and time and energy into something that you're passionate about. So like, even if it's not the same medium, it's got to be like a great energy to be like, oh, you guys fucking love this too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. That's it. Like somebody who just, I like people that are passionate. Whatever they're passionate about, like I'm drawn towards them. So if you're passionate about like dressing up and cosplaying, and then you have a real creative one, I'm like, man, bro, like that's so dope. I seen somebody dress up as Mysterio. He had the fish bowl in his head. He had a cape. He had the whole green material, you know, the comic book Mysterio, and it was just done so well. And then like people coming up, taking pictures to him, and then the pride that he took making that. You have people that do clay sculptures, and you could see like the time they take in detail, and people appreciate that, and people just being themselves and just passionate about like whatever their fandom is. And that's what you get at Comic Cons, just all these people and whatever they're into, there's like something there for them. You know, gamers, you see a lot of gamers there. They got a room just for people to play video games. You have like some of the YouTubers out there, and you know, they're just like us. And celebrities too. Like I ran into a few celebs that come with my booth and buy products, and that's pretty humbling. Like I had one of the Simpsons artists comment on one of my pieces and saying that's really cool. And he wanted to flip through more of my stuff, but he had a lot of customers at his table, so he didn't really give it a good look. I had this actor. He was on Arrow or one. I didn't know who he was at first, but he was just going through my portfolio, and he's like, you know, how much? I told him the amount, and then he gave me the money before he knew what he wanted, and then he's just flipping through it, and then he wanted to buy some more, and then I'm seeing a crowd come to my table, and they start buying stuff. I'm like, this got to be somebody famous or whatnot. Right. And then I heard one of the people there like, man, I love your character on Orange Is the New Black. He's hilarious. And he's like, I appreciate that. And he was having me sign like all the pics. I'm like, wow, you having me sign your pics? Like, and you know, I took a picture with him. He was a cool guy. So you get that a lot. I had like Sting, or the wrestler. So yeah, you'll have like celebs just walking around. Steve Gardinas, the Red Ranger. You know, I met him. He said hi or whatnot, and he got a piece of mine. I had it planned out so well. 2020, I was supposed to see the guy talk for Keith David. Keith David was supposed to be at Knoxville. I was like, okay, I got to have him sign like one of my prints. I'm gonna take a picture. That's gonna make my clout skyrocket. You know, the Pink Ranger. Who else? There's a few. Oh, LeVar Burton. He was supposed to be there. Like Mr. I would have geeked out. I would have geeked out like Childish Gambino if I seen him, because I got that Reading Rainbow piece. And I wanted him to sign it, and that probably would have been a good opportunity. But that's what Comic Cons is, just kind of meeting people you grew up watching, and then you're showing them your artwork as an adult. Like, you know, you inspire me to be what I am. Yeah, Comic Cons are cool. Like I'm doing one in my home city, Grand Rapids, in April. I never did anything up north. Like the first up north I've been was Indianapolis. So this is the first con being a professional illustrator that I ever done. So it's going to be interesting to see what a con's like in my home city. Of course, I'm doing one in Atlanta and Knoxville again. So I'm trying to venture out the South. I really want to do like a couple on the East Coast, see what their fans are like.
Yeah. Is that exciting for you to be like, this is where I'm from, this is what I've made of myself, and now I get to like come home and be like, check this out.
Right. Right. I was definitely one of those people that did not peak in middle school or high school. Like I'm just now like kind of finding my stride. So it's gonna be cool to go back. And they're like, oh, this is what became of them. Oh, you became an illustrator? Because I don't think they thought this is where I was gonna be at. Because I like to draw, but I wasn't like, like I said last time we talked, I was definitely not the strongest one. So like going home and kind of seeing like where I'm at and seeing how professional that I had became. Like, that's gonna be cool, and hopefully I'm well received. I'm looking forward to it. And the snow hopefully should be gone in April.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about hotels either because I can just stay at my mom's.
Yeah, that's nice.
So,
it's all profit, you know what I mean? Because you're not like, that's the good thing about having family up there. It's like cuts the expenses in half. Whenever we go home to visit, it's like, oh, I don't have to get like an Airbnb or nothing. You got room on, like, I'm bringing the whole family. So, but
yeah,
well,
there you go.
I did want to ask you because, I know we had carved out about an hour out of your schedule, and I want to make sure I'm being respectful of that.
Oh, no worries.
But, I did want to make sure that we were hitting on the book. I Can Draw. Just getting to like read through it when I was at the farmer's market. It's, and this is what I'm going to say about you, because I think the book encapsulates it really well. One of my favorite things about talking to you and about knowing you as a person and getting to see your work is that it all comes from a place of positivity, which I'm sure that, just like everybody else, you've got days where you're like, man, I don't want to do this. But like the overall message, the sense that I get in interacting with you and both, talking on the show and offline is, if you love something, do it. And I really think that the book is super cool because it fosters that opportunity in kids, like, hey, if you love this, start this way. Now you can draw this. And now, you know what I mean? It's like if you love it, then like continue to grow. And I very much get that sense. Like that's how you look at life. But for people who are interested in checking out the book, what's the best way for them to get it? I know, you can get books all over the place, but like, as far as supporting you and making sure that it is putting money into your positivity, what's the best way for them to do that?
So at this current moment, I sold out of the book, but I'm going to restock it in a couple weeks. So like early February, you could go on my website. I Can Draw at .bigcartel.com. I Can Draw.bigcartel.com. You'll be able to purchase my book and a lot of my artwork. I'm going to be at the farmer's market in April, and I always have like books if you want to buy it in person. And I can sign it. I always sign it for people. But yeah, definitely check out my website. And if you don't mind, I do want to talk about what you said, the positivity, and then just going for it.
Sure.
And if I could use you, for example, how old were you when you started building this podcast?
I started, so I'm an idiot, and I started the podcast January of 2020 because I was like, 2020 is a great year to start a podcast. And then,
So you're about 33, 34, right?
Yeah.
34 when you started, right? So people feel once you get to 30, you should already have it all figured out. You should be married, have kids, yada, yada. Our parents did, but it's different. And there's no set way to do anything. So in most people's eyes, you started late, but who cares? Like, you want to do it. Let's say you're 40, who cares? Just do it. There's no time limit when to start something and what how much you put into it. Right. So that's my message. That's my message is in my I Can Draw book. That's me now. Like, just whatever you want to do, start doing it now. Who cares that you're just now starting doing it? Who cares you're now where other people are your age? If you do it and you do it with the gusto, you'll eventually get where you're supposed to be. What is for you will get to you when it's your time. And, that's what I always want to tell people. That's why I like telling young brothers, young people, when they talk to me, I just want them to be the best version that they could be. And there's nothing that you can't accomplish. Like, I'm an artist because that's my passion. But anyone, if they're passionate about something, they could be. If I really cared about playing the guitar, if I was passionate, I pick a guitar. I could learn how to play guitar, and I bet I could be a good guitar player, respectfully. But that's not my passion. And I think anybody could do anything as long as they're passionate about it. Now, if you're like 5'2", the NBA might not be for you, but you still could,
you still play rec league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get out there and play ball if you like playing ball.
Yeah, and that could be your niche. You could be that 5'2" person that could ball, and you could have YouTube videos inspiring other short kids. My point of saying all this is just like, whatever it is you want and wherever you are, just go for it. If it's drawing, if it's starting a podcast, if it's selling clothes, if it's selling, whatever your hustle and your niche is, just figure it out. And that's what I constantly want to tell people. And I want to be the change. I want to show people that I did it. And trust me, if I could do it, anybody could do what I am, yeah, I am talented. Yeah, like I had to form a lot of skills and be able to talk to people. That takes time. But still, like, if you have the passion that I do, you could be exactly where I am, talking to John on his podcast,
Yeah, you've made it being on this show, buddy. No, I'm just kidding.
I made it, like, look where I'm at, y'all.
Right.
I'm talking to John,
Right.
The man.
Trust
what
me,
up, though?
Trust me, man. I'm the lucky one. And, again, man, that's why I've said this to certain people before, but I started this podcast because you are specifically the type of person that I really wanted to talk to. The kind of person that is putting good out into the world, positivity. And like you said, talent only gets you, so you can be talented, but it only gets you so far. Are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to have the right attitude? And so I just want to say thank you for being here. I really appreciate not only you spending time, but you being the person that you are, you putting the art that you put out into the world there for people to enjoy. Again, man, I'm just, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to sit down and chat with you and call you my friend. And would you mind sticking around for a little bit after we wrap up?
Oh, no problem at all, brother, man. And same likewise, man. I appreciate the invite, man. Like, once you send me that DM, we're doing it, man. I had it marked on my calendar. I can't wait to catch up. So, like, I love conversations like this. And I didn't even know we were going on that long, because it was just like we're talking if we were right next to each other. And, we do it again, it's going to be the same thing. So,
yeah, man. Yeah. Anytime you want to come back, I love having you. And guys, this is episode number 70 of the podcast. So thank you for checking it out. And if you take anything away from this week's episode, we will see you guys next week. But until then, make sure that you're doing what you love with gusto, and we will talk to you soon. All right.